This is the Broker News Podcast. We believe there is never too late to start a business. We did it. We turned entrepreneurs later in life. So why not you? What are you afraid of? Dare to live with purpose, no matter the age.
Hi, everybody. In today's podcast, I would like to introduce two individuals. Both work for the US IT service provider Cognizant on the 18th floor of the Prime Tower in Zurich, where I have been many times and enjoyed the fantastic view. I will begin with Thomas Gassenbauer. He is the country manager Switzerland, CEO, and board member. On LinkedIn, he describes himself as an optimist and former pessimist. We also talked to Brigitte, who is a strategic partnership development manager who is passionate about behavioral science. Now I'll hand over to Mirela and her questions for the two of you.
Thank you for the intro, Binci. Thomas, Brigitte, really happy to have you today here with us in the Broker News podcast. And while we were preparing for this podcast, I discussed with you initially about insurance, and you told me that's not necessarily your passion, but actually this podcast is going to be focused on something a bit more exciting than insurance. We're going to speak about leadership, inclusion, and the human side of innovation. What can be more exciting? I'm going to start quickly with your personal journeys, so people who listen to this podcast will learn more about the two of you. Thomas, probably you go first. Can you take us through your journey? What shaped you as a leader and what mission drives you today?
Thank you, Mirela, and thank you, Binci, for having us in the podcast. It's a great pleasure to be here. Well, what shaped me? The good thing of being at my age is that I already had many learning opportunities across the years. When I reflect my career, I had 11 different job roles, from systems engineer to project manager, people manager, sales, now executive. And I always thought that my current job was the best job I ever had. And obviously, each of these roles taught me different things for my life and for being a better leader. And I was always eager to learn and grow. And I had great coaches and mentors along the way who supported me. For this stage of my career now, it is time for me to give back and to help others to learn and grow and supporting the next generation, because I think it's time for the next generation to take over responsibility and for the people at my age to step back a bit, but still be there for a couple of years to help others step up.
I'm only intimidated when I hear about the next generation and age because I'm already 50. Why do you think we still have something to say? You have broken barriers throughout your career. I've seen that actually you had a business profile before joining Cognizant as studies and earlier careers. So what made you change?
Thank you. And also I can echo Mirela and Binci. That's really a pleasure to be here. Did I really break barriers? I always followed my curiosity and always looked to grow. So yes, in my career, I've made my career in banking, and from Canada to Geneva to Singapore. Basically, my career was really about banking and delivering solution in bankings, from middle office to merger and acquisition to building new department or new offices. And what motivated me to move to IT, which I still remember, it shocked a lot of my banking friends. They were like, "You sure, really?" It was just so logical because I moved to the solution side. Moving to IT, you just have them in your hands. So now you're actually asking for new challenge to be solved because you have the tools. So that's basically what motivated me to make this change, even though I come from business.
Which means you are very much impact-driven.
I like to create results.
You want to see the baby at the end of a big effort. Yeah.
I like to see problems and then work as a team to create a solution that will make it happen, will solve it. So then it, of course, delivers results. And I think that's a big satisfaction that I get out of that. It's a bit like in sport. You make an effort and at the end you can look back and say, we have achieved it. That's what drives me.
We've done something. Yeah, fully resonate. Let's speak a bit about leadership, philosophy, and well-being. Thomas, before in our discussion, you described your role as putting handrails in place so others can thrive. How do you balance structure and freedom in leadership? Because that's not an easy.
The strange thing is, most leaders think their job is to make decisions. I really doubt that. I doubt that leaders making decisions on their own make the best thing for their company and the best thing for their associates. I think leaders shouldn't hoard decisions. They should create an environment where the best decisions happen. Now, how do decisions magically happen? Obviously, they don't. I think it needs to kind of empowering your associates to make the really big decisions for their clients. That means you have to delegate power to the people near at the client. Don't mandate stuff from the top. It doesn't, in my experience. Also, and that's what you mentioned, the handrails. It needs obviously some rules of the game. If everyone just like on a football field has a ball and runs behind the ball, 11 different people, it doesn't give a good game. So it needs some kind of rules that everyone can play to. And most importantly, instead of always showing strength, I think you need to show vulnerability as a leader. And that's not just a feel-good philosophy. It's kind of a high-performance strategy for today's really complex leadership challenges. And as said, if the leader has to make all the decisions, I think the organization is not performing at its best. That's really my belief.
Yeah, wonderful. You both worked in very demanding environments, and I'm very curious to understand how was your leadership style evolved over time? Because I know for myself, I became a manager of people at the tender age of 26, and I still say today, I had no clue what I was doing. And then I tried to emulate the style of the most powerful leaders I could see in my professional life. But with time, of course, my style has reshaped, has transformed. So what about you?
I can definitely say as well, I'm 42. I will soon be 43. And that's exactly, the leadership has really changed because I started my career. I was probably 18. During my summer vacation and the weekend, I was working as a lieutenant in the Canadian Army. So I was actually in a leadership position of only men. And it's very different. In the army, you have a dress code and the authority is actually imposed. It's by the rank. And if you don't salute someone who has a higher rank than you, you have, let's say, penalties. So that was a bit how I was shaped at the beginning. And thank God it has really changed. In the financial sector, then there was also not a lot of women. I was lucky to have one mentor as a woman that really helped me to shape my leadership. Then again, we had a dress code. And your credibility was based on your long working hours. The longer you work, the more credibility you had, because you could dedicate yourself more to your career. And I remember back then, a bit like you said, when you were younger, you were emulating a bit. That was the same. I remember I used to wear the clothes to give me some authority, the one that I was lacking a bit, and I was trying to age myself to probably cope with the lack of experience that I had when I was in my late 20s. Now that I am older, now that I'm also working in tech, where the dress code is a bit more soft, and also we are post-COVID, which has impacted the dress code. It's really different. Of course, the dress code has changed, but also the leadership, I'm more confident as well, as now I'm 42. I know I can deliver, I have the aptitude, also capable to ask help. I know my purpose. It's really clear. It's modernize the business, and it's just changing so fast that maybe you have more humility to know what you don't know, and you accept. I accept more the inconsistency. I accept that no human is not perfect, not always consistent. The process as well, the organization, myself, the trends are changing, the economy. So I think that really helped, and also being thankful, that I have this possibility to be creative by setting, as we mentioned before, like goals and then strategy to achieve it and working as a team. I think that also impacts my well-being because then I can set the goals that I feel we are capable to achieve as a team. So yeah, maybe now at 42, My definition is that it's basically to be able to pursue a goal together despite the moving, and minimizing the impact of those fluctuations on the people and on the goals.
Again, you triggered a comment here. I remember even the makeup had to age me when I was 26, because I'm not sure if it was my lack of experience or my perceived lack of experience, because the average age of all the other managers around me was 50, and they were mostly men. So dress code, makeup, everything had to show that I'm serious, in control, a bit more tough than my natural self. I very much resonate with your story. Binci, you want to add something?
I want to add something to Brigitte, because she is stressing at 42, she feels more confident, and those things like what you're wearing, your makeup, etc., are not that much of a problem to her anymore, etc. But I want to add, like Thomas and myself, who are, I think, both 60 plus, the opposite also. I mean, we have a lot of experience, but what I want to stress is we also look at the young people, how they manage, what they do, how they do it, and sometimes profit of them. What do you think, Thomas?
You just made me older. I'm just 58. But it doesn't matter. I sometimes feel like 60 plus. When I think about the 35-something years of my career, I had 17 managers in 35 years. And in preparation for that podcast, I kind of reflected on those 17 guys that made my life better or worse. And they were only guys, 17. And there are many studies that really say that the importance of your direct manager is really big for your well-being, for your growth. And they even state that it's the second biggest influence after your partner or your family is your manager on your job role. And if I think about those 17 guys, to be honest, less than half of them were really great managers. They were alpha males or micromanagers or conflict avoiders, you name it. And that's what really drove me to kind of focus on my leadership skills and on my management skills, because I really believe that your leadership is so important. And mostly for the young generation, they expect that you empathize, that you understand, that you are there for them. But we'll talk about that later. But these 17 guys, they haunt me.
I like to say, Thomas, that I have managers who made me better and some who made me bitter, both.
And what's the quota? 50-50?
The ones who really made me better, they are like the ones I remember the most. The rest don't even matter. Maybe I got lessons from everyone, but in the end, the ones who made me better are still in my memories out there. And by the way, regarding what you said before, that your well-being is very much impacted by the management style of your boss or leader, if you're lucky enough. Even if they are sleep deprived, apparently this induces a negative performance in the team because it induces fear. When we are sleep deprived, we are not at our best. We know it very well, each one of us. And therefore, taking care of our well-being as leaders is also a responsibility towards our teams. And I would like to keep the conversation going, Thomas, because you mentioned that Cognizant promotes servant leadership. Now, that's a buzzword. I heard it many times, but you promised me it's not how you practice it in Cognizant. So please tell me, how do you bring this concept to life?
For me, to lead is to serve. This is a buzzword, as you said. But the heart of it is, if you are a manager, you are overhead unless you're able to make your people better. Because I am not at the client front making the business. It's the people who do that. I don't deliver the tech services at our clients. It's our people that do that. So I'm just overhead. But what does it mean? How can you instill a culture of learning, maybe, and seek the ideas of others? And for me, that is kind of the safety you can give to an organization or to your people. If I'm the smartest person in a room, that's a disaster, always, because I cannot be the smartest person in the room. we have to have much smarter people in our organization that can help our clients. So you need to be able to cope with the smartest people on the planet and accept that they're smarter than you. And that's such a difficult thing sometimes as the leader, as the CEO, as the very important person to accept that others are much smarter than you. But for me, that's the secret of the success of Cognizant, how we do it in Switzerland. But maybe Brigitte has a totally different opinion to that.
No, honestly, I don't have a different opinion of that. I was thinking actually, as a leader, you have to embody those values that you want to have to also infuse in your team. Because I know when we talk together, Thomas, you always have like different theory books, that you can share. And we talk about, new trends or leadership style. So for me, you might not be the smartest person in the room, as you said, but it's exactly those values that you are embodying and make me a better person. So I don't have a different opinion. And I think it's also the role as a leader to inspire us to give the best of ourselves and become a better version.
I guess I'm going to steal this quote of you, Thomas. If you are a manager that does not help people thrive, you are just an overhead. I love it. It's the first time I hear it. I love it. Well, leadership today is not just about performance and KPIs and numbers and how much money we produce. It's a bit more complex than that. And we finally started speaking about well-being and bringing your whole self to work. How do you personally look after your own well-being in a high-responsibility role? Because as we mentioned before, sleep deprivation affects your team, not only yourself.
Do you want to go first, Thomas?
Of course. So I belong to a generation where work-life balance did not exist. I heard that 10 years ago for the first time. For me, work was kind of part of life, and you could get so much out of work, right? Fun, you could grow with work, and it enriches your life. But if I look now with the whole globalization, digitalization, and this always online kind of mandate, your kind of stress levels can dramatically rise. And we see that with our younger talents in our company, but also with families and kids and the like. I mean, humans are kind of able to cope with great challenges, but they need some breaks. They need some time off. They need some time they can spend with things that are totally different from their work life. I personally adopted a 3-stakeholder approach. Stakeholder number 1 is my business life. It always takes as much of you as you give it. You can give it 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. It easily takes it as much as you give it. So you have to set boundaries and you have to learn to say no, to say boundaries, which is sometimes easier than other times. My second stakeholder is my social life, my family, my friends, everyone. I try to get quality time with my social life. I try to fully focus on the activities when I have them and not have my mobile phone on my table and look on my mobile phone every 5 seconds if there is a business call. And my third stakeholder, that's myself. And usually in stressful times, you come last, right? You forget about yourself because you have to take care of your business and your social life. So I try to at least get my basic routines done. If that's the least thing I can do, my exercise, my healthy food, my enough sleep, as you mentioned, Mirela. And that's kind of the basic thing I can do for myself and also to be a good leader for the other people, to kind of refill my resources, refill my energy so that I can then perform again when I'm asked to.
What about you, Brigitte?
What I do is I really manage my energy for the long run, mentally and physically. So that means knowing myself, what and who drains my energy, and dosing my energy as well with the task or with the people accordingly. I know that the creative work, for example, really feed me. So I try to manage my day or my week. Also, having pockets of energy completing each other during the week. It also means really being myself. again, as we age, one thing that I learned is that I thought that before showing my professional side would make me more credible professionally. But actually, what I realized is that on the long run, first, you have to be really yourself, but also being my fully human side, fully human person, that's what makes you the most relatable because people can relate to you, whatever it means. You show your runner side or the cook, that you speak about your cooking or the gamer part of yourself, the parent, the child, the foreigner cat. It's really bringing the authentic version of yourself to work in those relationships because you cannot fake those relationships. That's those relationship, even with coming back to the office, that's exactly what you see. Those relationship, that's what make you more productive and also attached to the company and make the communication flow better. And I think that's a nice gift both for yourself and for your colleague, client, partners, actually, that you can do, just bringing this authentic person of yourself. I mean, you can see it now. People are looking more and more for authentic relationships. So
yeah, showing a bit of vulnerability, as Thomas also mentioned a bit earlier, and being relatable. In this way, it's not only about taking care of our own well-being, but we give an example to the people we work with. Because if they see us sending emails at 10 p.m. on a Saturday evening, what they will think about it? They will simply feel the pressure. Even if we say, hey, you can read it on Monday, just schedule it to go on Monday. You don't need to send it on Saturday evening. This is a nice bridge to the next topic because I wanted to ask you, how do you make your teams, your people feel supported, understood? And how do you support their own well-being? Thomas?
Now you go first, Brigitte.
Okay. Yes, I think it's really about being yourself. If I have a private meeting or if I'm like, look, I need a break now, I will tell my team, I need to think about something, or I actually don't know this topic. I need to speak with the expert. It's just allowing yourself to be human. I think that's really one thing. And also, I would say listening to their point of view, especially the younger. It's easy to listen to maybe the older one because they naturally, I think it's your position to think that they know more than you. And then you can have this tendency to listen less to the younger one. But actually, we are building the world for the future generation, ours and the future. So I think we need to listen to the younger one. Whenever I do it, I'm really impressed of the shifting in the priorities and also the different mindset priorities. And I think that's really enriching.
So maybe one thing to add, leadership is not a one-way street. Leadership is a relation, and it's all about empathy and respect in our daily work. And sometimes I think the way you treat the lowest ranked person in your hierarchy says a lot about your character. And you see very different approaches to that behavior. I cannot compete with Brigitte's officer career in the military services. In military services, the leader takes the charge and protects his people. And in business life, it's often the other way around, right? The leaders sacrifice their people for their own success, or they fire people to save the numbers of the quarter, which is very short-term thinking. And I understand the pressures of being a kind of global corporate stock-listed company. I lived that my whole life, but still, I think you have to keep that in mind, that it's about the relation at work, and that's you as a leader, you go first. If needed, you take the hit.
Yeah, very much agree. Binci?
I very much loved what you just said, Thomas, about treat the people who are down in the hierarchy just the same as you do the ones above, because this is so true. And it's not just in business, but it's everywhere. Like when you see people treating your waiter badly and because you think this should be the way, it's not. I just wanted to say what made me so happy last week. I was at an event with insurance brokers, and not just one, but a few came up to me and told me, Binci, we love to read what you are writing, and we see or you can feel the love you have for what you're doing, for writing whatever you're writing. One can feel that, one can read that. That made me incredibly happy, because this is, I think, something that makes a difference as well. Really love or like a lot what you're doing. This will be seen or felt by others as well.
Yeah, because when you love your job, you can transmit this to the reader, to the customer, to whomever is consuming what you have created. Let's speak a bit about the next generation, because we alluded, all of us, that we are aging, which I fully disagree with. I think we are just becoming wiser. You mentioned that Cognizant has both an apprentice and a graduate program, which means you are working with young professionals that need to succeed, to feel seen and supported, and you also need to take care of their well-being.
I mean, often people ask me, Thomas, what if we invest in our people and then they leave us? There's a lot of attrition in the younger generations. They are still at the early stages of their careers. They like to try things out. And then I always ask them, what if we don't? What if we don't invest in our people? Then they are just left behind. That's the losing game from day one if we don't invest to our people. So we have to invest and we have to try to keep them. That means we have to show growth, appreciation. It's not so difficult to have a good working relation with someone. Sometimes you cannot give people what they're asking for. Then that is what it is, right? But for me, the most important thing is kind of they get the appreciation so that they can see that they can grow and that they are sought after in the market. If people have opportunities in the market, that means they are great people. And it means that you have done something right as a corporation. If my people don't have opportunities in the market, we are doing something wrong. And then we also stuck with the wrong people as a company. So it's a non-debatable investment into the young generation. And we talk about some of the challenges maybe later that come with the young generation.
I know I'm a mother of a teenager.
Yes.
And my life is not all milk and honey. Obviously, we have some fights. We have our different opinions, and sometimes we go into full-fledged conflict, but this is what it is. Nevertheless, I think the workplaces are going to change, and the workplace culture is going to change to accommodate for the new generation, mostly for Gen Z. Brigitte, do you want to add something to that? Because probably you come across a lot of young people as well in your day-to-day work.
Yes, I do. Maybe not as much as Thomas. I think that it's, as I mentioned earlier, listening to their point of view and also sharing some background or history that they might just be missing, because of their current curses. I think it's really about that, just being there as a human, this rank or this whatever, just as a human.
I love that. And in full disclosure, I founded in the beginning of this year a mental health association for youth. So I'm in contact quite a bit with young people, and there are a couple of concerns they have. First of all, Gen Z is concerned about their financial future much more than we would expect. A second thing is, yes, money counts, success counts, but so do we. So our mental health and well-being is also important. And a common denominator I could see from all my interactions, they want to be seen. They want to be a bit encouraged, because sometimes they have the feeling, we don't have it figured out. What is our path in life? And here I am with my wisdom, not age, coming up and saying, I also don't have it fully figured out. I'm also struggling sometimes. I also have the feeling I chose the wrong path. So that's completely normal. Speaking, yes, Brigitte, I think you want to add something.
Yes, because you just remind me a very good point, actually. So I'm also I'm on the board of an association actually for young women to help them to grow in their career and their network. And the question that I get often, exactly on the point that you said, I have not figured it out. The job that I'm doing, it didn't exist back then, and I've reshaped it as well. And, there are different paths of career. You can have, if you're a surgeon, you study to be a surgeon and you will grow in this career. But there are also other type of career that, you follow your curiosity. And as you grow in expertise in this field, you discover a new opportunity. And this is what they call the spiral career. It's not a spiral circular, but it's growing circularly from one interest to the other. And I think that's a knowledge that needs to be shared back to the younger generation. And that I do often. You don't have to have figured it out from day one. You just need to know what you like right now, where you want to learn more, where you want to grow, what's going to be the next place where you're going to be uncomfortable, because this is where you grow. And that's it. That can be just your next step for growth, And I think that's reassuring. It removes a lot of pressure on your shoulder.
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't need to figure out what's your next job, what's your next position. Just stack up some skills and keep up to date with technology, with development. Because in nowadays world, if my daughter is asking me, what am I supposed to do as my next step? I have no idea. I can only tell her, hey, learn to be resilient, learn to be adaptable. I can't tell you exactly what kind of job you're going to have, because whatever I know might be deemed obsolete. And again, not because of the wisdom, but because everything is changing very fast nowadays. Since we are on the topic of next generation, how do you spot potential in someone and how do you help them develop and grow?
For me, when I work with the younger generation, the potential, I would say, I will look for curiosity. They want to understand the reason why or how it works, that they also are following up on their action. They will take initiative and they will, take action to complete the goal. And if they're facing problems, triggering help. And then I will also invest time and energy to explain them the vision, my reasoning, how to come to realization, step by step. I can share my network and knowledge in business and in tech.
Wonderfully said. Nothing to add.
Okay, perfect. Then we're going to go to our next chapter. Sorry, Binci, go ahead.
I was just told something quite interesting by a professor, and it doesn't matter. He is a professor in statistics, but whatever he is, it doesn't matter. He said that the new students of today sometimes lack a little bit of this curiosity, and that he does sometimes something to get his students to be curious much more. And what is he doing? So the first lecture, they are talking about a topic that nobody knows anything about, and they don't ask anything. But there's always one asking something as if he or she knew it all, which made those who didn't intrigued, because they thought, well, should I have read something? Should I have done something else, etc.? So for the next hour, the next lecture, they were far better prepared. But what did this professor do? He had a few of his students of the second, third, or fourth semester already and told them, ask questions. So obviously they knew what he was talking about because they were much ahead. And I think this is just such a great example of a possibility to make people more curious. Because, sometimes I also feel they are a bit lacking a little bit of curiosity, but do something to make them curious. It's not that difficult.
That means also the teachers and in the educational system, we should have more leaders. And I very much agree with you, Binci, because teachers sometimes complain about young people. They don't pay attention. They don't care. They are not curious. But have you done anything from your position as mentor, as teacher, to instill that curiosity? Which drives me to another topic, which is creativity. Let me tell you a short story. While I was still in one of my corporate jobs, I told someone, guys, in this department, we are going to do a lot of creative work. And someone raised a hand and said, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I'm not creative, I'm a numbers person, which for me was a bit puzzling because we still associate creativity with arts or writing or painting, when actually creativity is something which some of us, and here I speak about Brigitte, associate with technology. I read a recent interview of yours in one magazine where you mentioned that technology is a canvas for creativity. It is something I very much like, and I would like to get your view. What does it mean to be creative in tech?
Actually, first of all, this is a very good hidden secret. And I think not a lot of people allow themselves to come out and say, I am a creative, even though I am in tech. But once I open up about being creative, I discovered that many of my colleagues, actually, they are painters or they invent recipes or they are writers. We have a lot of creative person in tech. And not only I say them, please come out, but also like for all the creative people that probably have a wrong perception of tech, I would say, please get curious and hear this message, because you can think about the different technology, AI, data, the cloud, automation, IoT, which is already vast as well, even quantum computing, all the technology topics, they are like letters, numbers in the past. Actually, you can use them to create solutions. Either it's for whatever is the purpose. It's the pigment for a painter or the ingredients for a cook. It's exactly the same. For me, I don't see any difference. And they are really the foundation. They are fundamental to create our world. So if you are a creative person, really get curious about tech.
Wonderful.
I can go deeper if you want, but this is exactly what technology is for. And I think that's why I got passionate about tech later in my career and why I love it so much, because it's not like it was in the past. I think in the past, people in tech were having different personalities, different profiles, and job profiles. And now it's no longer like that at all. And I had to be curious before I moved to tech to look what it was actually working in tech. It was not at all what I had perceived in the past. And now I talk with business owners, with the C-level of the companies. I work with my team, commercial team, to really address problems and create solution. It's not at all like in the past. So really, it's just fascinating. That's what I mean. It's really creative.
Very fascinating to listen to Brigitte, to be honest. Being a tech nerd has not brought up the word creativity, but in a way it is. For me, tech is so woven into our daily lives, and there is so much you can do with tech that for me it's the best place to be, right? That's all I can say. I love it in tech.
Speaking about tech, we still don't have enough women, and somehow women see any tech job as, oh, that's for boys, not necessarily for us. Same with leadership, sometimes we have to say. So Brigitte, in your opinion, what should actually do to move the needle and to convince more women to join tech?
Yes, and that's a very good recurring topic, women in tech. I had the discussion with the CEO last week actually about it. Like, why do we don't have enough women in tech? I have a very strong opinion there. When I was really young, my mom wanted to raise me as the perfect wife, the perfect mother. So she was always keeping me in the kitchen, in the house, to know how to cook and to manage children. And I was always running to the garage or to whatever my dad was doing, because I thought it was more interesting. Because I learned electricity, I learned how to work on a car, I work how to build walls. And my mom and my dad were both allowing that. They freed this time for me to be curious and learn not typical topics for women. So very early on, I learned science and astronomy and different topics that not a lot of my women peers actually got into. I mean, I was always dirty, the hands and all that. And I think that maybe that's not the whole answer, but I think that what allow a woman to be in tech or in science is just to allow this woman to be exposed to how things are working and also to have a different mindset. Because just to be honest, when I was with the men in the garage on this old motor, not all of them knew perfectly from 1 second how to fix the motor. But their mindset was, we're going to figure it out. And that was the main difference for me, because between a group of men not knowing everything, but having the mindset, we're going to figure it out, we're going to learn as we do, versus being in the kitchen with the woman, replicating what they were told from the past generation, for me, that really changed my mindset. And I think that's one way that you can have women coming in tech, by nourishing this curiosity, the fact that it's okay not knowing, but you're going to learn, and you can team up to learn and make it happen.
So making it accessible and less intimidating.
Yes.
Thomas, I'm going to ask you, as a leader of Cognizant in Switzerland, how do you support female colleagues and rising talents in taking on more technical and leadership challenges?
It's a big question, right? If you ask other people to take risks and challenges, you have to give yourself. You have to build a climate of trust. You have to build safety, that people are kind of willing to take risks, because playing it safe, right, will not help you in your career and will not give you purpose. If you just do your 9-to-5 job, that will not bring you anywhere, I think. So building a culture that allows for failure and allows for risk taking is, for me, the fundamental thing. And then on top of that, I think it needs some structured programs. It needs some easily accessible programs like shadowing. So you can shadow a more senior person in their day-to-day life and see how they master or don't master their challenges in their day-to-day lives. We have a structured program for mentoring, especially for female talents and younger talents, where we, in a kind of a trustful environment, we talk about the challenges and our future path. And by the way, reverse mentoring is fantastic, right? There's so much things you can learn from the younger generation. I really love it. And then we're doing a lot of events, like some of the events that Binci attended, right? We're really doing at least once a quarter. We're doing role model campaigns for our female leaders. We are doing education and networking events like for financial literacy and so on. I think it's a mix of culture and structured programs and events so that you kind of get people to kind of jump in the cold water.
Yeah, and I had the pleasure to be in a Women's Day event last year, I think, with Cognizant, where I got to know some absolutely fantastic ladies, leaders. Now let's speak about a different dimension of diversity, because, Brigitte, you want to add something? Please go ahead.
Yes, just to complete on that question, and those events are really great, by the way. One thing important as well that I learned in my career, because I remember earlier, I had this manager, and then we met later in life, and he laughed because he never thought it was possible. I was doing the same job for many years, and then I asked, I took all my courage because I was still in my 20s. I asked for a promotion, and he told me, look, Brigitte, your work is fantastic. But as a manager, I cannot allow myself to take the risk to give you that promotion, because you're 25, soon you get married, have kids, and then I will end up, with the risk. Yes, the risk, of giving extra responsibility to a now mother that is gonna not work anymore. So the learning from that, and then later we met actually in the street, and he said, I was with my kids and I was out of a conference, and he said, but you really made it. For him, it was not even conceivable that you could work and have a family. So I think it's really important as women, and that's what I advise often to my younger women colleague. Be vocal about your plan. If you want to start a family, be vocal about it and talk about how you're gonna plan. How you're gonna manage the workload, with your spouse or with your family, etc. And if you don't want to have kids at all or for the next XY year, please be vocal as well, because it can be in the expectation of the managers that there is a risk related. So I think it's important to be vocal. So then if you're clear on your personal and career trajectory, then the manager can also more envision it with you, manage the whole thing.
And I'm going to quote some of the amazing ladies I've met in the Cognizant event. Speak up. Be remarkable. I'm not going to say here who said it. I hope she's going to be a guest in this podcast. Let's speak about another dimension of diversity. You work in one of the most culturally diverse environments with people from all over the world. If I understood correctly, you have over 37 nationalities only here. Amazing. But leading across cultures is not easy. So how do you do that? Give us practical examples and do's and don'ts, or positive and negative examples. Everything helps.
So maybe I forgot to mention at the beginning, but I'm originally from Canada and I moved to Geneva, from Geneva to Singapore, work in Hong Kong, came back to Geneva, and then moved from the French-speaking part of Switzerland to Zurich. So there was a lot of different culture as well. And then, of course, the 37 plus nationalities in Cognizant Switzerland. I think that what is important is first, you have to be aware of your own culture as a start, because each culture have different position about the relation to time. It's not going to be the same to be if a meeting starts at 8:00, depending on the culture, not everyone will show up at the same time. The notion of noise as well, how to provide a negative feedback will change from one culture to the other. Some people will appreciate having the direct feedback, one in one-to-one, some accompanied with a positive one. How you build trust. In Asian culture will be more with having a relationship, a personal relationship, introducing your family or speaking about your personal time outside of work, taking coffee together. And other culture, like more in the West part, will be on delivering results. The role of the woman also in a culture will vary. The impact of the dress code, we mentioned it earlier, but it also has impact from a cultural point of view. And when you are facing a situation that could shock you, before reacting, just think like, is it from my culture or is it really disrespectful? Whatever is the culture. So I think it's important to step back and also to keep in mind that your culture will evolve and it changes from generation to generation, but also as more as you are in contact with different culture. So I think a question that is good is also to ask yourself, what do you want to take from the other culture? And maybe even what you want to give away or express less from your own culture? And then maybe more philosophical, but as a global company with our own background and culture and now based in Switzerland, what is our responsibility? What is our role? To me, of course, moving from different culture was to speak the language, knowing the customs, knowing the countries, but also as a Canadian in Switzerland working for a global company, how I see it is I am an ambassador of modern technology for business. I'm an ambassador of global culture, but I'm also an ambassador of Swissness towards the other culture. I want to respect this country where I'm working and living, and I want to represent it also to the other culture, to educate and to preserve. So it's kind of an international sparkle on Cream Schnitte.
I love that. Thomas, anything to add from your side?
I mean, to add to that, maybe it's a great asset, right? Our diversity is a great asset, but it's also a humbling experience because you cannot assume things that you would assume as being in Switzerland with Swiss people eating very Swiss cheese, right? It's very diverse. So you have to stop assuming things and you have to start asking things. You have to start being empathetic, think yourself in the other person's shoes and ask, how is that done where you come from? How would you do that given your background and your education? And I think that's the secret to it. If you're open to ask, then you understand what the other person thinks. And then you can still agree to disagree. You can still say, well, all right, I understand that, but here we do it like this or whatever. And you have a discussion. I think for me, most important is be aware of the differences and ask people to understand where they are. And then you find solution. And then it's a big asset to have such a diverse environment like we have.
We are approaching the end of this podcast episode, and I truly enjoyed it. But I have only a couple of questions, and they refer to leadership for the next generation. What kind of leadership do you believe the next generation will need most, especially in such a fast-moving world?
I think it needs to be human. It's all definition of human. Fostering learning, creativity, being open to new ideas, looking for a blind spot, especially with AI. So what are the blind spots of people, but also of AI? In one word, human.
Thomas, anything to add from your side?
No, I think it's very spot on what Brigitte said. It's about purpose. It's about being appreciated. It's about being seen, as you said. So I think human is a very good word for it.
Excellent. And this deeply, deeply resonates. One final question from my side. If a young person would come now to you, ask you, what shall I choose? A tech career or a leadership career? What would you advise them to do?
There's no choice, both. I remember when I was younger, right, we had the choices of either doing a professional career or a management career. These days are gone, in my point of view. We live in a tech world. Tech is all around us. So you have to stay on top of tech, even if you're not in a tech company. You have to be able to master ChatGPT and these things. So there's no choice. You have to stay in tech. But then also you have to develop your leadership skills, because in past times, I often saw that the best techie was promoted to manager. Now you have a super techie that now does not do what he really can do, but now he's the manager of the other techies. Now what happens? As he's the best one, he micromanages all the others because he knows best what they should do. So don't do that. Don't promote the best techies to managers, but give management and career path on top of tech, on top of the professional skills, and invest in both. I think it's very important to invest in both for the growth of your career.
So to summarize it, be tech savvy and a human leader. And you can be everything you want. Brigitte, anything to add?
On that sentence, I think it's perfect. You can be everything you want. No, nothing to add.
Binci?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to very young people, what they should do is also be very open to everything, because your career will never be the way you think it will be at the beginning. This will change a lot. And learn languages. Learn Chinese, for example. I think when I were young again, that's what I would do.
Okay, very interesting perspective, especially with the languages, although I would disagree. As long as you have automated translators, I'm not sure if I would invest that much. I still need to learn German though. Thomas, Brigitte, it has been a deeply fulfilling conversation about leadership, innovation, next generation, women in tech, creativity in tech. I think we covered so many topics, and I'm very grateful for being with you today here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mirela and Binci. It was a great pleasure of being here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening. We will come back with more episodes of the Broker News Podcast.